kind of hit on my next question that I was going to ask, but I'll put it in a different term now. So say you were, coming out of high school this year, you know, would you have considered playing overseas now, or would you still want to get that college education?
Um, am I like a top 10 guy, or am I like the same normal, like
Uh,
my count, my level
um,
coming out?
let's say your level.
All right, yeah. So if I'm my level, I'm going to go to school first. For me, I still needed time to develop, and I was a good high school player, and good. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, and I was, pretty good for that area. But I still had a long way to go and to grow. And when I was in high school, I was 6'8", but my coach would not let me leave the paint. Right, so I was like
Oh,
all inside. I called the ball. I wasn't allowed to dribble. This big accent, Tyler. When you catch the ball, just turn and shoot it. I was like, okay, coach.
Arnold Schwarzenegger over there.
Yeah, yeah. But he had this raspy voice because he'd been yelling at kids for the past 40 years of his life.
I thought maybe you went as a smoker, possibly.
We all joked he was a smoker. He didn't smoke at all. He's a really healthy guy. Um, so I was nowhere. When I came to Penn State, all of a sudden I went from being a center and a 5-man to a 3-man. And I was guarding guys like Michael Redd, who played in the NBA for a long time, was an all-star, Morris Peterson, who's at Michigan State and then NBA. And now those guys smoked me, but I had to transition to being able to guard and play a different position. And then after a couple of years playing the 3, I went to the kind of 4-5 roles, more of a stretch forward. That really that's kind of where I found my sweet spot.
That's awesome. So after you played all these years, I noticed, or I knew that you made a book, and I saw you giving a giveaway on your Facebook page a couple of weeks ago. So what made you ultimately decide to write a book? I mean, that's just so cool.
There are so many crazy stories that happen when you're living and playing in foreign countries. I'm like, people are not going to believe this stuff. Like you're really not. And when I was at Penn State, one of the alumni, Pete Lisicki, who's a great shooter for Penn State years ago, he would write emails to our trainer. And so we'd be getting taped up in the training room, and our trainer would come out just dying laughing from his office. And we're like, what's so funny? He's like, you're not going to believe these stories Pete Lisicki has. These teams like not paying him, and when they do pay him, they pay him in cash, and he's got all his money in a freezer and a brown paper bag and all that stuff. And so I'm like, that's hilarious. So I started writing emails to my friends and family when I went overseas, and all this goofy stuff that was happening. And I remember we went to when I went to Uruguay to play. We went to an away game, and I'm like, hey man, I gotta use the bathroom. There's no toilet paper in here. They're like, oh, Tyler, man, you got to bring your own toilet paper. I was like, bring your own toilet paper. I'm like, where are we? you know? And so just goofy stuff like that, all my friends back home, they're in their early mid 20s and regular jobs and stuff. Like they're not having to go in and fight management to get their paychecks every month.
Yeah.
So just silly stuff like that. And so I'm writing these emails over the years, and a couple of people are like, you should write a book. I'm like, I don't know. Well, by the time I was about maybe 31 or 32, my career is winding down. I'm like, man, it would be so much fun to put these stories together. Probably only my mom is going to read it, but it'd be fun to at least have, like, for my girls sometime to read these stories. And if I could get it published, that'd be the icing on the cake. But whatever. So I wrote them all down, and I took it to a couple publishers, and they're like, no. And a couple agents, they're like, no. And then I just hit the right connection with this one publisher, and he's like, so do you have an agent or anything? I'm like, no, not for a book. Like, I've had it for basketball, but never for a book. And he's like, it's like unheard of. Nobody like gets published like without an agent, but like we want to publish your book. I'm like, sweet, let's go
That's
for it.
awesome.
So I was really fortunate, and it was like, for me, it was such a real fun goal to see realized, that to actually see it like on the bookshelves of Barnes and Noble. I'm like, yeah, like there I am next to Krzyzewski
Victory.
and Jordan and LeBron and stuff. So I would like take a picture of it, and be like, just a couple of the
Not a big
legends,
deal.
hanging out on the shelf of Barnes and Noble.
So, well, like, what, like, did you have someone like re-edit, like did you have an editor for the paper or the book, or was that all you, like just you wrote it all out?
So I wrote every word, and then when I said my goal is to just get one draft down. So I took a whole year, and I got the whole first draft, and I was like, okay, I knocked it out. Now let's revise it some. And so I hired a guy that had been a writer for ESPN and the Chicago Tribune, and he was great. He helped me tighten some things up and bring it even more together. And I thought I was all ready. I connected with my English teacher from high school. He's written a couple books, and he's like, hey, well, why don't you send it to me? I'd like to take a look at it. And I said, oh, great. And so I said, it's done, but you can look at it. And so he gets back to me after reading it, and he goes, well, that's pretty good for a first draft. And I'm like, first draft, man, I
Oh
thought I
my
was
gosh.
finished.
Yeah.
So I went through it again with him. He was really kind and gracious to, give his time to go through it with me, and made it even better. So, after a couple of revisions, it finally came to be, but it was published a couple of years ago, 2017. And, but yeah, we'll always have the stories now.
That's so cool. Can you imagine if you had like smartphones back in the day and recording all that stuff? That would have been insane.
Oh yeah, yeah,
You,
but
you,
it really helped having like all these emails to kind of look back on, and that was kind of like my journal or my man diary, for lack of a better term, right? So that helped trigger a lot of thoughts, and I had like a lot of dialogue and conversation and stuff in the book, so that was really helpful to kind of be able to look back at.
Hey, don't sleep on the man diaries. The journals are a very cool thing to do. I love doing that stuff.
They are, man. It's a lot of fun to look back on it.
It is funny. So I guess did you ever consider doing like an Audible, like reading the book and then selling it that way as well, or what have you done with the book? Just put it in on shelves or online?
Yeah, so you can get it like on Barnes and Noble. You can get it in most Barnes and Noble stores. I have a website, Called for Traveling is the name of the book, and it's calledfortraveling.com. I have copies and stuff myself, but I'd love to do an Audible one. So if you figure out how to do that, man, let me
Hey,
know. They
we're
only take
tagging Audible in this post as well.
That's right, Audible. I'm coming for you, baby. You need this book.
I'm gonna put a link in the description for that book as well, because I mean that's gonna be a hell of a book. I mean, I know you did a giveaway a couple weeks ago, but maybe you'll do another one in a couple more weeks or something. Who knows?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, listen, I got a few reviews on Amazon, and I haven't gotten any haters out there yet. So, once I get a few haters, then I know I've really made it.
Then you really made it. What made you decide to do a giveaway then? Were you just like, I want to promote this more, or was it just for fun?
Well, it's funny because my initial thought was, oh, it's going to be March Madness. People have basketball on their minds. This is kind of a unique story because there've only been a handful of books written about overseas basketball, and they've actually been really good. But I thought, it's just a fun way, and it's more than just basketball too. I mean, you don't have to be a junkie to, to like the book. I have a lot of people that are like moms and kids, and it's age appropriate for really anybody. But for the giveaway, my thought was, well, here we are. Like, I don't want to ask anybody to buy a book now because everybody's losing their jobs. You've got all this COVID lockdown stuff going on. But I thought, well, people might want to be doing more reading. I know I was doing some more reading. So let me just, and then it was Good Friday leading up to Easter Sunday. Here's one of my little friends.
Yeah, there's another one. I was just gonna say.
Yeah. Tori, you want to say hi?
Say hi. Hello.
That's Victoria. She's my awesome little 5-year-old. She's our little tornado.
Let's go, Victoria.
She wants some gum. So the answer is yes. Just don't get it in my hair. But yeah. So anyway, I was like, well, let's just give some books away, and hopefully there was so much bad news going on, and maybe this will be a little bit of good news and stuff. So we gave away like 10 books on Easter Sunday, and that was really fun to to do. And for me, I get so much enjoyment out of just other people enjoying it. That was a big part of me writing the book. I mean, listen, I'm not retiring off of royalties or anything. All right. So it's fun to share the stories with other people. Hopefully they get a lot of good laughs out of them. I talk about my faith, and I talk about family and stuff. You'll find my wife is the true hero of the story. When you get to the end, you're like, I don't know how she put up with you and all that stuff. Yeah, I don't either. She's an angel.
I'm gonna buy the book when we get off this call. I think I'm really interested to hear all these
I have a
stories.
special, it's only $100 for you. I got a copy for you right here.
Only for 100. That's a
Yes.
steal.
Boom. There you
That's
go.
a steal.
It looks like it's backwards on my screen, but I don't know. There you go. Call for
No,
travel.
it looks good there. But I mean, after this episode gets over 1 million views, you're gonna end up retiring off royalty checks. That's what's gonna happen.
Oprah's going to have me on next, then Ellen. It's going to get out of control. So it could be a package deal, though. We can go on together.
Hey, well, I'll be fine with that. So, in your opinion, I want to take it off of you a little bit and give your little self a breather about talking about yourself. So, what about Penn State's basketball team this year? What I know you mentioned it in my news package, but in your opinion, how far do you think they were going to go during this year?
Man, how fun was it to watch those guys this year? I mean, like
It was
every
amazing.
game, it was like, well, they won like 8 in a row or something at one point, and, beating all these teams. They won up at Michigan State. I mean, they were a top legit team this year in the country, and I was so proud of those guys and really happy for Coach Chambers, Lamar Stevens, and the whole squad. But I think for sure they could have gotten to the Sweet 16. I mean, I think they win their first game. Is like they were projected to be anywhere from maybe like fifth to maybe seventh or eighth, depending on how they would have done the Big Ten tournament. And then the second game they could have won for sure, got the Sweet 16. And then from there, it's like, I mean, your confidence and momentum is just building as you're winning these games. So I mean, they could have gone to the Elite Eight. They could have, who knows, man? They play the right way, the way they've been playing. Why not a Final Four? So. They had so many good tools this year. They were a good shooting team. They had great inside presence. I mean, it was a really, really fun team to watch. And it just blows my mind of like all the years that this would happen.
They finally get there,
Yeah. Like, why not have this happen like, my senior year when we were like 7-21, like that's the year when it should happen.
So,